The notification sound pierced through my morning silence like a knife. Then another, and another. I was standing in my kitchen in Portland, Maine, still in my pajamas, watching steam curl up from my tea kettle. The early December light was just beginning to filter through my window, painting everything in shades of gray and blue. It was supposed to be a peaceful Saturday morning, the kind where I'd spend hours working on my novel before the rest of the world woke up. But those 3 chimes from my phone changed everything. I picked it up, expecting work emails or maybe a message from my writing group. Instead, my banking app showed 3 alerts, stacked one on top of the other like dominoes waiting to fall. My stomach dropped before my brain even processed what I was seeing. 3 identical transactions, each one processed at 3:47 in the morning while I was deep asleep. Nordstrom. 3 separate purchases, each one maxing out a different section of my available credit. My name is Sophia Bennett. I'm 32 years old, a freelance content writer and aspiring novelist. I live alone in a small but cozy apartment in Portland's Arts District, and I've spent the last 5 years rebuilding my life after leaving an abusive relationship. My independence isn't just important to me, it's everything, and someone had just violated it while I slept. I set my phone down on the counter, my hand shaking slightly. The kettle was whistling now, a shrill sound that matched the panic rising in my chest. I turned off the stove, the silence that followed feeling heavy and wrong. My writer's mind wanted to find a logical explanation. Maybe it was a glitch, maybe the bank had made an error. But my gut knew better. I'd been too careful for too long, had fought too hard for my financial stability to let myself be naive about this. I picked up my phone again and opened each transaction: designer handbags, luxury shoes, high-end cosmetics, total amount $14,300. Money I didn't have. Purchases I would never make. Then I tried to log into my email, and my blood ran cold. Password incorrect. I tried again, typing slowly, deliberately. Password incorrect. On the 3rd attempt, a message appeared that made my heart stop. Your password was recently changed. Would you like to recover your account? Someone had been inside my digital life, inside my accounts, inside my security. I selected the phone recovery option, and within seconds a verification code appeared. As I reset my password and logged in, I saw the notification showing which recovery email had been used for the recent password change. Rebecca.bennett.sis@gmail.com. Rebecca, my sister. I stood there in my kitchen, staring at that email address, my mind racing through possibilities and denials. Sisters don't steal from each other. Families don't do this. There had to be another explanation. But as I scrolled through my inbox, I found them. 3 Nordstrom order confirmations, all marked as read all shipping to an address in Newton, Massachusetts. My sister's address. My phone buzzed with a text message. Rebecca's name lit up the screen. OMG Soph, thank you so much for the early Christmas gifts. You're literally the best sister ever. The girls are going to flip when they see what Auntie Sophia got them. Love you. The tea in my mug had gone cold. I set it down carefully, precisely, everything in its place, the way I'd learned to keep my life ordered and controlled. But my hands were shaking now, betraying the calm I was trying to maintain. This wasn't possible. This couldn't be happening. But it was. Let me take you back to where this really started, 3 weeks before those charges appeared. Back to the day when my sister's financial crisis became my problem, whether I wanted it or not. It was a Wednesday evening, and I was deep into editing a client's website copy when my phone rang. Rebecca's face appeared on the screen, that professional headshot she'd had taken when she joined her husband's dental practice as office manager. Everything about the photo screamed success. Perfectly highlighted hair, designer blouse, practiced smile. I almost didn't answer. My deadline was tight, and conversations with Rebecca had a way of expanding to fill whatever time I allowed them. but something made me pick up Sophia. Her voice was tight, strained. "I need to talk to you about something important." I saved my document and leaned back in my chair. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong exactly. It's just—" She paused, and I heard her take a deep breath. "Marcus and I are having some temporary cash flow issues. The practice is doing great, but we've got this gap between when insurance pays out and when our bills are due. You know how it is." I didn't know how it was. I lived on a budget, tracked every expense, and never spent money I didn't have. But I stayed quiet, waiting. "The girls need new winter coats, and the heating bill for the house is insane this year. And we've got this stupid property tax thing coming up." The words tumbled out faster now. "I was thinking, since you're doing so well with your writing business, maybe you could spot us some money, just until January when the big insurance payments come through." My fingers froze on my keyboard. "How much are we talking about?" "Maybe 5,000? I know it sounds like a lot, but it's really just a bridge loan. We'll pay you back with interest, I promise." $5,000. Half of my emergency fund. Money I'd saved through 2 years of saying no to dinners out, no to new clothes, no to everything except the absolute necessities. "Rebecca, I don't have that kind of money just sitting around." "But you just took that big client, the tech company. Mom said you were making really good money now." There it was, Mom. The Family Information Network, always sharing details I hadn't authorized her to share. "That contract is over 6 months, Rebecca. I don't get paid all at once." "But you have savings." It wasn't a question. "Mom mentioned you've been really responsible with money since the divorce." Since the divorce? As if my financial stability was just a hobby I'd picked up after leaving Jake, not a survival skill I'd developed through necessity and terror. "I do have savings," I said carefully. "But that's my emergency fund. It's not for lending out. I'm not asking you to give it to me, Sophia. I'm asking you to lend it to your sister who's in a tight spot. Family helps family." Family helps family. How many times had I heard that phrase growing up? Usually right before I was expected to sacrifice something, to be understanding, to put my own needs aside for the greater good of the Bennett family unit. "I'm sorry, Rebecca, I can't." The silence that followed felt heavy with disappointment and judgment. "Fine." Her voice had gone cold. "I guess I know where I stand. Mom always said you changed after the divorce, became selfish. I didn't want to believe her, but I guess she was right." She hung up before I could respond. I sat there staring at my phone, anger and guilt swirling in my stomach. The words stung because they were designed to. Selfish. Changed. Not the loving sister I was supposed to be. I called my mother the next day, needing to address what she'd been saying about me behind my back. "Oh, honey," Mom said, her voice dripping with that particular tone that made everything my fault. "I didn't say you were selfish. I said you'd become very focused on yourself after the divorce. Which is natural, of course, but Rebecca really needs help right now." "She asked me for $5,000, Mom." "And you said no to your own sister?" "Sophia, she's struggling. Marcus's practice is going through a rough patch. They have 2 children to think about." "I have myself to think about. That money is my safety net." "You don't have children. You don't have a husband. What do you need a safety net for? You could rebuild it in a few months with all the work you're getting." I closed my eyes, trying to find patience. "It doesn't work that way. My income varies month to month. That emergency fund took me 2 years to build." "Well, I think it's sad that you won't help your sister when she needs you after everything we did for you during your divorce." There it was again. The debt I could never repay. The obligation that would follow me forever. "I sent flowers and a card," Mom continued. "I told her you'd come around. You always do." After I hung up, I sat in my quiet apartment, looking at the life I'd built. The small desk where I worked. The bookshelf filled with novels that inspired me. The kitchen where I'd learned to cook meals for one without feeling lonely. This was mine, all of it. And I'd fought so hard to have it. I wasn't going to let guilt make me vulnerable again. But I also couldn't have known what my sister was planning. The family group chat started buzzing a week later. My phone lit up with message after message as I was trying to focus on writing a blog series for a wellness company Mom had created the group. Bennett Family Holiday Planning. Girls, the first message read, let's coordinate Christmas this year. Rebecca, you're hosting dinner. Sophia, you're bringing wine and dessert. We'll do gifts on Christmas Eve at our place like always. Rebecca's response came immediately. Can't wait. The house will look beautiful. I'm ordering a real wreath for the front door and everything. I stared at the message, my writer's instinct catching the performance in her words, ordering a wreath. Present tense, as if she hadn't already done it, as if she was telling me, specifically, about an expense she was about to incur. More messages flooded in. My Aunt Sarah chiming in about bringing her famous stuffing. Uncle Tom asking about parking. Cousin Jennifer requesting the recipe for Rebecca's chocolate cake. Then Rebecca again. Mom, did you see those gorgeous Christmas outfits at Nordstrom? The girls would look so precious in them for the photos, but they're a bit pricey right now with everything else going on. Mom's response, oh, honey, maybe Sophia could help out. She doesn't have children to buy for. My fingers hovered over my phone. I could see what was happening, the stage being set, the narrative being crafted. Poor Rebecca with her 2 beautiful daughters who deserved nice things, and wealthy single Sophia who could afford to share. I muted the chat and went back to work. But the messages kept coming. Over the next 2 weeks, the family group chat became a constant drumbeat of Rebecca's needs, each one carefully worded to sound casual but landing with the weight of expectation. Addison needs new winter boots, but the good ones are so expensive. Emma's birthday is coming up and she wants that American Girl doll, but Marcus says we can't afford it right now. Wish we could take the girls to see the Nutcracker, but tickets are crazy this year. Each message followed by Mom's gentle suggestions that maybe Sophia could help. After all, what did I need my money for? I stopped responding in the group chat entirely. Let them talk. Let them hint and suggest and manipulate. I wasn't going to engage, but I should have been paying more attention to what wasn't being said. To the quiet ways my sister was gathering information, accessing accounts, preparing for what she was about to do. The Monday before the charges appeared, I had lunch with my mother. She'd insisted on meeting at a cafe near her house in Cape Elizabeth, and I'd agreed because refusing felt like it would cost more energy than just going. She was already seated when I arrived, a cup of coffee in front of her, her phone face down on the table like a weapon waiting to be deployed. "There's my successful daughter," she said as I sat down, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Too busy to visit your mother these days." "I was here 2 weeks ago, Mom." "Yes, for an hour. You rushed off to some deadline." She said the word like it was something shameful. This is Revenge Stories, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you feel my words, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Help us build this community so we can bring more interesting and exciting stories for you from around the world. Your help is much appreciated. Your voice matters here. Your story matters too. We ordered our food, and Mom spent the first 10 minutes talking about Rebecca's daughters, about how well they were doing in school, about the dance recital coming up that I'd apparently committed to attending, though I had no memory of this. Then she shifted gears. "Your sister is really struggling, Sophia, more than she's letting on." I set down my sandwich. "She seems to be doing fine based on her Facebook posts. Social media isn't real life. You of all people should know that." Mom leaned forward. "Marcus's practice is barely breaking even. They're living on credit cards. Rebecca is too proud to ask for help, but I can see it. The stress is aging her." "She asked me for $5,000 3 weeks ago, and you said no." Not a question, an accusation. I said no because I don't have $5,000 to lend out. But you have it in savings. That's the same thing. It's really not, Mom. She sat back, studying me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Disappointment mixed with something else. Calculation, maybe. When you were going through your divorce, Rebecca helped you move. She let you stay in her guest room for 2 weeks. She listened to you cry every single night. I know, and I'm grateful for that. Are you? Because gratitude usually comes with some reciprocity, but all I see from you is selfishness disguised as self-care. The words hit like a slap. I felt my face flush, anger and shame mixing in my chest. That's not fair, isn't it? Mom picked up her coffee cup. You've built this little fortress around yourself. Sophia, your apartment, your work, your writing. You've made yourself an island. And now when your family needs you, you hide behind your boundaries and your therapy talk and your independence. My boundaries are healthy. Your boundaries are walls, and you're going to end up alone behind them. We finished the lunch in near silence. As I was leaving, Mom touched my arm. Just think about it, she said softly. Think about what matters more, money or family. I drove back to Portland with her words echoing in my head. Money or family, as if they were opposing forces, as if choosing to protect myself meant abandoning everyone else. That night, I couldn't write, couldn't focus. I kept thinking about Rebecca and her beautiful house in Newton with her doctor husband and her 2 perfect daughters. I thought about the guest room where I'd cried myself to sleep after leaving Jake. I thought about family and obligation and the debts we can never fully repay. But I also thought about the years I'd spent rebuilding my credit after Jake destroyed it, the nights I'd eaten ramen to save money, the freelance gigs I'd taken at midnight because I couldn't afford to say no, the slow, painful climb back to financial stability. This was my life. Mine. And I had a right to protect it. I just didn't realize yet how much I would have to fight to keep it. The morning the charges appeared, after I saw Rebecca's name on that recovery email, I did what I'd trained myself to do. I compartmentalized the emotion and focused on the facts. Fact 1. Someone had accessed my credit card and made $14,000 in fraudulent purchases. Fact 2. That someone had used my sister's email to change my Gmail password. Fact 3. All purchases were shipped to my sister's address. I made coffee, strong and black, and opened my laptop. My hands were steadier now. The shock had burned off, leaving behind something colder and more focused. I called my credit card company first. Thank you for calling. This is Derek. How can I help you today? I need to report fraudulent charges on my account. My voice came out calm, professional. Years of phone interviews and client calls had taught me how to control my tone, even when everything inside was screaming. I'm sorry to hear that. Let me pull up your account. Can you verify your address and the last 4 digits of your social? I provided the information, and I heard him typing, Okay, Ms. Bennett, I see you have 3 pending charges from Nordstrom totaling $14,300. Are these the transactions in question? Yes, I didn't make these purchases and I didn't authorize anyone else to make them. More typing. I see these were made online at 3:47 a.m. Eastern Time. Do you know who might have had access to your card information? This was the moment. The question that would determine everything that came next. Yes, I said. I believe my sister made these charges without my knowledge or permission. A pause. I see. Because you've identified the person responsible, we'll need you to file a police report to proceed with the fraud claim. This is standard procedure for identity theft by a known party. I understand. I'm going to freeze your card immediately and send you a new one. The charges will be placed in dispute status while we investigate. You should file that police report within 48 hours to keep the claim active. After I hung up, I sat staring at my laptop screen, filing a police report against my own sister. The thought made my stomach turn. But what was the alternative? Let her steal from me? Absorb $14,000 in debt because confronting her felt too hard? I thought about Jake, my ex-husband, and how long I'd let him control our finances. How many warning signs I'd ignored because facing the truth felt impossible. How much it had cost me to finally break free. I wasn't that person anymore. I opened a new browser window and searched for the Portland Police Department's non-emergency number. But before I could dial, my phone exploded with messages. Rebecca. Hey, so weird question, but did your credit card company just cancel an order I placed? I got a notification that the charges were reversed. Mom. Rebecca just called me very upset. What's going on? Rebecca again. Sophia, call me now. What did you do? Dad, chiming in for the first time in months. Your mother says you're accusing Rebecca of something. Call your sister. More from Rebecca. I can't believe you're doing this. After I was just trying to help you by using your good credit since mine is maxed out, I was going to pay you back. I read that last message 3 times, using my good credit, as if my credit score was a family resource available for anyone to borrow. As if accessing my accounts without permission was an act of helpfulness rather than theft. My phone rang. Rebecca's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Mom this time. I silenced it and turned my phone face down on my desk. Then I picked up my laptop and began documenting everything. Screenshots of the charges, screenshots of Rebecca's texts, the email notification showing when my password was changed and which recovery email was used. I created a folder labeled Credit Card Fraud and saved everything with dates and timestamps. My writer's mind kicked into gear, organizing the evidence like plot points in a story. First, the setup. Rebecca asking for money. Then, the escalation, the family pressure. Finally, the climax, the fraudulent charges. And now, the fallout. I called the police non-emergency line. Portland Police, how can I direct your call? I need to file a report for identity theft and credit card fraud. 30 minutes later, an officer called me back. I explained the situation calmly, methodically. Yes, I knew who did it. Yes, it was a family member. Yes, I understood what filing a report meant. Ms. Bennett, I have to tell you that prosecuting family members for fraud can be complicated. Are you sure you want to go forward with this? I thought about Rebecca's text, using your good credit, as if she had a right to it. I'm sure, I said. The officer took my statement over the phone and assigned a case number, 2024-12-8847. He told me a copy of the report would be emailed within 24 hours and that I should forward it to my credit card company. One more thing, he said before hanging up. This kind of situation tends to escalate before it resolves. You might want to consider additional security measures for your accounts and your home. After we hung up, I went through every online account I owned: email, banking, credit cards, utilities, social media. I changed every password to random strings of characters, enabled 2-factor authentication on everything, and set up alerts for any login attempts or changes. Then I created a new email address, completely unconnected to my name or any personal information, and set it as the recovery option for everything important. It took 3 hours. By the time I finished, it was early afternoon, and my phone showed 47 missed calls and 63 text messages. I didn't read them. Not yet. Instead, I opened a blank document and started writing. Not the novel I'd been working on, but this story. My story. The one that was unfolding in real time. Sometimes you have to write something down to understand it, to see the patterns, to recognize the manipulation you've been swimming in for so long you thought it was just water. I wrote about Rebecca's ask for money and how it had been framed as temporary help. I wrote about Mom's lunch and the way she'd weaponized my past against me. I wrote about the group chat and the constant drumbeat of Rebecca's needs. I wrote about waking up to 3 fraudulent charges, and the moment I saw my sister's email on the recovery notification. And as I wrote, I saw it. The pattern, the manipulation, the way my family had been treating me not as a person but as a resource to be exploited. The Bennett family. ATM. Always open, never closed. My phone buzzed with a notification. The police report had arrived in my email, faster than promised. I downloaded it, saved 3 copies in different locations, and forwarded it to my credit card company with a brief professional message. Then, finally, I opened my text messages. The onslaught was worse than I'd imagined. Rebecca had cycled through denial, anger, and victimhood in the space of an hour. Mom had escalated from concerned to accusatory to threatening Dad, usually absent from family drama, had weighed in with disappointment. Even my Aunt Sarah had sent a message about family loyalty and forgiveness. But it was Rebecca's last message, sent 20 minutes ago, that made my blood run cold. "Fine, you want to do this the hard way?" I kept my mouth shut about what really happened with Jake, about why he really left. But maybe it's time the family knew the truth about perfect little Sophia and her issues. I stared at that message, trying to understand what she meant. What really happened with Jake? He'd left because I'd finally found the courage to kick him out after catching him emptying our joint savings account for the 3rd time. There was no secret, no hidden truth. Unless Rebecca was planning to invent one. My hands started shaking again. This was how it worked in my family. You stepped out of line, you set a boundary, you said no, and suddenly there were consequences. Reputation destruction, social isolation, the family closing ranks against you until you apologized and fell back into place. But I had evidence now. Police reports, bank records, screenshots of her own admission that she'd used my credit without permission. Let her threaten. Let her manipulate. I had the truth on my side. I typed out a response to Rebecca, my fingers steady on the keyboard. I've filed a police report for identity theft and credit card fraud. Case number 2024-12-8847. All communication regarding this matter should go through my attorney. Do not contact me again. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then I blocked her number. I did the same with Mom, Dad, and anyone else who'd sent me threatening or manipulative messages. My phone suddenly felt lighter in my hand. The silence that followed was profound. For the first time in weeks, no messages buzzed through. No calls interrupted my thoughts. Just quiet. I sat in that quiet for a long moment, feeling the weight of what I'd just done. I'd cut off my family, set boundaries they would never forgive, chosen myself over the collective good. And it felt terrifying, but it also felt right. Outside my window, Portland was going about its Saturday afternoon. People walking dogs, couples getting coffee, the normal rhythms of life continuing despite my personal earthquake. I made another cup of tea, this time actually drinking it while it was hot. Then I opened my laptop and did something I'd been putting off for months. I emailed my therapist, Dr. Chen, and asked for an emergency session. "Family situation has escalated," I wrote. "Need guidance on next steps." Her reply came within an hour. Monday at 9 a.m. Hang in there, Sophia. You're stronger than you think. I closed my laptop and looked around my small apartment. This space I'd created, this life I'd built, this independence I'd fought for, nobody was taking it from me. Not even family, especially not family. The weekend passed in a strange bubble of silence and productivity. With my phone mostly quiet after blocking half my family, I fell into my work with a focus I hadn't felt in months. I finished the blog series for the wellness company, edited 3 chapters of my novel, responded to client emails with my usual professionalism, as if my personal life wasn't imploding. but underneath the productivity was a constant hum of anxiety, waiting for the other shoe to drop, knowing my family wouldn't just accept my boundaries without a fight. Sunday evening, the first crack appeared. An email arrived from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line, Family Intervention. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. Dear Sophia, it began, formal and cold. We are writing to invite you to a family meeting at Mom and Dad's house on Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. We need to discuss the serious accusations you've made against Rebecca and the damage you're causing to our family unit. This behavior is unlike you, and we're concerned about your mental state. Please come prepared to apologize and work toward reconciliation. This invitation comes from a place of love and concern. We hope you'll do the right thing. Signed, the Bennett family. I read it 3 times, my writer's brain analyzing the language. The passive-aggressive concern trolling. The implication that setting boundaries meant I was mentally unstable. The demand for an apology before any conversation could even happen. The manipulation was so textbook it was almost beautiful in its construction. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded it to Dr. Chen with a note, "See you tomorrow at 9. Monday morning arrived with gray skies and the smell of snow in the air. I dressed carefully for my therapy session, choosing clothes that made me feel armored. Black jeans, a soft gray sweater, my favorite leather jacket. Small acts of self-care that reminded me I was still here, still whole. Dr. Chen's office was in a converted Victorian house in the West End, painted a cheerful yellow that always felt incongruous with the heavy topics discussed inside. I'd been seeing her for 3 years, since 6 months after my divorce, and she'd become my anchor in learning to recognize and resist manipulation. She greeted me at the door with her usual warm smile, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun, reading glasses hanging from a beaded chain around her neck. "Sophia, come in." Her office smelled like lavender and old books. I sank into the familiar leather chair across from her desk and immediately felt some of the tension leave my shoulders. "So," she said, settling into her own chair with a cup of tea, "tell me what happened." I walked her through everything. The initial ask for money, the family pressure, the fraudulent charges, the police report, the blocked numbers, the intervention email. She listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on the pad in her lap. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "Sophia, I want you to hear something very clearly." She leaned forward slightly, her brown eyes intent on mine. "What your sister did is a crime. Not a family disagreement, not a misunderstanding, a crime. And your family's response to your very reasonable boundary is textbook manipulation." "I know that intellectually," I said, "but emotionally I feel like maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I should have just loaned her the money in the first place." Let's examine that thought. If you had loaned her $5,000 3 weeks ago, do you think she would have stopped there? I thought about the constant requests in the group chat, the escalating needs, the way my mother had framed my entire existence as a resource to be shared. "No," I admitted, "she would have come back for more." Exactly, because the issue isn't actually about money. It's about control and entitlement. Your sister feels entitled to access your resources without your consent. Your mother supports this entitlement, and when you set a boundary, they're punishing you for it. "The intervention email," I said, "that's what's really getting to me. They're framing my boundaries as mental instability." Dr. Chen nodded. "It's a common tactic. If they can convince you and everyone else that you're not thinking clearly, then they don't have to take responsibility for their actions. They can focus on fixing you instead of fixing their behavior." "So what do I do about the meeting? What do you want to do?" I considered this part of me wanted to go, to defend myself, to make them understand. But another part, the part that had grown stronger over 3 years of therapy, knew better. "I don't want to go," I said slowly. Nothing good can come from it. They've already decided I need to apologize. There's no space for actual dialogue. Then don't go. You don't owe them your presence at an ambush disguised as a conversation. They'll say I'm running away, avoiding the issue. Let them say it. Their opinion of your behavior doesn't change the facts of what happened. Your sister committed fraud. You filed a report. Those are objective truths that exist independently of how your family frames them. I felt something loosen in my chest. Permission. I'd been waiting for someone to give me permission to not go, to not engage, to not subject myself to their collective judgment. I need to respond to the email, though, I said. If I just ignore it, they'll show up at my apartment. You're probably right. So, what would a boundary-respecting response look like? I thought about it for a moment, then pulled out my phone and started typing while Dr. Chen watched. I've received your invitation to a family meeting, I wrote. I won't be attending. I've made my position clear. Rebecca committed credit card fraud by accessing my account without permission and charging $14,000. I've filed a police report and am working with my bank to resolve the issue. This is not a family matter to be discussed and negotiated. This is a legal matter. Any further communication about this situation should go through my attorney. I understand you may disagree with my actions, but I'm not interested in justifying my boundaries. I hope you'll respect my decision. Sophia. I showed Dr. Chen the draft. She read it carefully, then smiled. Perfect, clear, firm, and leaves no room for negotiation. How do you feel about sending it? Terrified, I admitted, and also kind of empowered. Both can be true. Fear doesn't mean you're making the wrong choice. Sometimes fear just means you're doing something brave. I hit send before I could overthink it. We spent the rest of the session talking about what would likely come next, the escalation tactics my family might use, the importance of maintaining my boundaries, even when it felt impossibly hard. The grief that comes with recognizing your family isn't who you needed them to be. As I was leaving, Dr. Chen touched my arm gently. Sophia, you're doing something many people never manage to do. You're choosing your well-being over other people's comfort. That's not selfish. That's survival. I walked back to my apartment through the cold December morning, those words echoing in my head. Survival, not selfishness. Survival. The response to my email came faster than I expected. I'd barely made it home and gotten my coat off when my phone buzzed with a notification. An email from my father's account, which I'd forgotten to block since he rarely used email. Sophia Margaret Bennett, it began, and I could hear his voice in the formal use of my full name. Your mother is devastated by your response. We raised you better than this. Family is everything, and you're throwing it away over money. Rebecca made a mistake, yes, but she was desperate. She was trying to get Christmas gifts for her daughters, your nieces, and you called the police on her like she's some kind of criminal. You've changed since that divorce. Jake did a number on you. We all saw it. But this is too far. We're giving you until tomorrow night to apologize to your sister and work this out like adults. If you don't show up to the meeting, don't bother showing up to Christmas either. You'll be making your choice clear. I read it twice, feeling the familiar combination of guilt and anger swirling in my stomach. They were using Jake against me, framing my growth and boundary setting as damage. They were threatening to exclude me from Christmas as if that was a punishment rather than a relief. And they were minimizing what Rebecca did. A mistake. Desperate. For the children. Except the charges weren't for children's gifts. They were for designer handbags, luxury shoes, and high-end cosmetics adult items. Expensive items. Things Rebecca wanted for herself. I took a screenshot of the email and saved it to my evidence folder. Then I blocked my father's email address too. I was building walls, brick by brick, and I could feel my family beating against them, trying to tear them down. but the walls held. That afternoon, I got a call from my credit card company, a different representative this time, someone from their fraud investigation department. Ms. Bennett, this is Lauren Chen from the fraud department. I'm calling about your disputed charges. We've received your police report and reviewed the evidence. The charges have been permanently reversed and you won't be held responsible for them. Relief washed over me. Thank you. I do need to tell you that we've also had to file our own report with law enforcement since the amount exceeds $10,000. The account holder who made the purchases, Rebecca Bennett, may be contacted by police as part of their investigation. My stomach tightened. I understand. We've also noted on your account that there was unauthorized access using a recovery email. I'd strongly recommend reviewing all your online accounts for similar vulnerabilities. I've already done that, changed all my passwords, enabled two-factor authentication, everything. Good. One more thing, Ms. Bennett. In cases like this where family members have committed fraud, we often see repeated attempts. Please remain vigilant about monitoring your accounts. After we hung up, I sat with my laptop and pulled up my credit monitoring service. I added alerts for everything. New accounts opened in my name. Credit inquiries, address changes, anything that might signal someone was trying to access my financial life again. Then I went further. I froze my credit with all 3 bureaus. It was a hassle that would make my own life slightly harder, but it was a wall Rebecca couldn't climb. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Sophia, it's Rebecca. I'm texting from a friend's phone since you blocked me. I can't believe you're doing this. The police called me today. The police! Do you understand what you've done? Marcus is furious. The girls are asking why Auntie Sophia hates us. Mom won't stop crying. This is destroying our family. All because you're too selfish to help your sister when she needed you. I hope you're happy with yourself. I stared at the message, parsing the manipulation in every sentence. The blame, the emotional hostages, the implication that I was destroying the family rather than responding to being victimized by it. I blocked the unknown number and made a note to contact my phone carrier about additional blocking options. Then I did something that felt both petty and necessary. I went to my social media accounts and changed all my privacy settings to maximum. No one could see my posts unless we were friends. No one could tag me in photos. No one could add me to groups without my permission. I was building a digital fortress, and I wasn't apologizing for it. That evening, as I was making dinner, my doorbell rang. I froze, wooden spoon in hand, marinara sauce bubbling on the stove. I wasn't expecting anyone, and anyone I wanted to hear from would have texted first. I walked quietly to the door and looked through the peephole. My mother stood in the hallway, wrapped in her long wool coat, her face set in an expression that was half concern, half determination. My heart hammered in my chest. She'd driven over an hour from Cape Elizabeth to show up uninvited at my apartment. I didn't open the door. "Sophia!" she called through the door, her voice just loud enough to carry but not loud enough to disturb neighbors. "I know you're home. Your car is in the lot. Please open the door. We need to talk." I stayed silent, barely breathing. "Sophia Margaret, I'm your mother. Open this door right now." The command in her voice was designed to trigger years of conditioning. Good daughters open doors for their mothers. Good daughters don't ignore family. But I wasn't trying to be a good daughter anymore. I was trying to be a healthy adult. "I'm not leaving until you talk to me," she said. And I heard her settling in, her back probably against the wall, preparing for a siege. I pulled out my phone and texted my neighbor across the hall, an older woman named Mrs. Patterson, who I'd helped with her groceries more than once. "Hey, Mrs. Patterson, there's someone in the hallway outside my door who won't leave. Could you maybe walk by and see if everything looks okay? I don't want to call the police if it's nothing, but I'm a little uncomfortable." Her response came immediately. "On it, honey." 2 minutes later, I heard Mrs. Patterson's door open and her cheerful voice. "Oh, hello. Are you visiting someone in the building?" My mother's response was tight. "I'm visiting my daughter, Sophia Bennett in 3B. "Oh, Sophia, such a sweet girl. Is she expecting you?" A pause. "We had a miscommunication about timing." "Well, I'm sure she'll be home soon if she's not there now, but you can't wait in the hallway, dear. Building policy, fire hazard and all that. You're welcome to wait in your car, or there's a lovely coffee shop just down the street." I could practically hear my mother's internal struggle. Mrs. Patterson's friendly but firm tone left no room for argument. "Fine," Mom said finally. "Could you tell Sophia her mother stopped by? Tell her to call me." "Of course, dear. You drive safe now." I heard footsteps retreating, then Mrs. Patterson's door closing. A moment later, my phone buzzed. "She's gone. Everything okay, honey?" "Yes, thank you so much. Family stuff. Complicated." "Say no more. I had one of those families myself. You need anything, you knock on my door." I stood in my hallway for a long moment, my hands shaking with adrenaline. My mother had shown up unannounced, tried to guilt me into letting her in, and would have waited outside my door indefinitely if Mrs. Patterson hadn't intervened. This was escalation. This was the behavior Dr. Chen had warned me about. I went back to my kitchen, turned off the stove, and lost my appetite for dinner entirely. Instead, I opened my laptop and did something I'd been avoiding. I Googled family estrangement support groups. 20 results appeared, articles about toxic families, forums for adult children of manipulative parents, support groups that met in person and online. I clicked on one. Standing Firm. Support for adults. Setting boundaries with family. The description read, "A judgment-free space for people navigating family estrangement or severe boundary setting. We understand that sometimes protecting yourself means disappointing the people who raised you. You're not alone." I felt tears prick my eyes. You're not alone. I'd felt so alone in this, so isolated by the narrative my family was spinning that I was the problem, the selfish one, the daughter who'd changed and turned her back on everyone who loved her. But here was evidence that other people understood. Other people had walked this path. Other people knew what it felt like to choose yourself over family obligation. I filled out the registration form for the next meeting. Wednesday evening, virtual. I could attend from the safety of my apartment. Then I closed my laptop and let myself cry. Not sad tears, exactly. More like release tears. The kind that come when you've been holding tension in your body for so long that letting go feels almost painful. My phone buzzed, an email notification. From Mom. "I came to your apartment tonight because I love you and I'm worried about you, but you wouldn't even let me in. You wouldn't even talk to me. I don't know what's happened to you, Sophia. This isn't who you are. Rebecca is your sister. She made a mistake, but she needs you, and you've turned your back on her, on all of us. I'm not sure I even know you anymore. When you're ready to be part of this family again, you know where to find us. But don't wait too long. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt." The threat was clear. Come back in line or be cast out permanently. I didn't respond. Instead, I made myself a cup of chamomile tea, wrapped myself in a blanket, and turned on a mindless TV show. I needed to stop thinking, stop analyzing, stop replaying every interaction and wondering if I was being too harsh, too unforgiving, too selfish. I needed to just be, to exist in my space without the weight of family expectations crushing down on me. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight I was safe in my apartment with my locked door and my boundaries and my choice to protect myself. That had to be enough. Tuesday came and went without me attending the family intervention. I spent the evening at a coffee shop across town, writing and drinking too much caffeine just in case anyone decided to show up at my apartment again. My phone stayed silent. No calls, no texts, no emails. The silence felt ominous, like the calm before a storm. Wednesday morning, I woke to an email from my Aunt Sarah, my mother's sister who usually stayed out of family drama. "Sophia, I heard about what's been happening and I wanted to reach out separately from all the noise. I know your mom and Rebecca are upset, but I've been doing some thinking last year when I needed help with my car payment. Rebecca offered to take care of it using my credit card. She said she'd pay me back within a month. It's been 14 months and she still hasn't. I wrote it off as her being forgetful, but now I'm wondering if there's a pattern here. I'm not taking sides. But I wanted you to know that I understand why you did what you did. Family isn't supposed to steal from each other, no matter what they call it. Take care of yourself. Love, Aunt Sarah." I read the email 3 times, feeling something shift inside me. Validation. From someone in the family who understood, I wrote back immediately. "Aunt Sarah, thank you for reaching out. It means more than you know. I think there is a pattern, and I think you might not be the only other victim. Would you be willing to document what happened with you? Not for legal reasons necessarily, but just so we have a record of how widespread this has been?" Her response came an hour later. "Already started. I pulled my credit card statements going back 2 years. I found 7 charges I didn't make, all around the time Rebecca borrowed my card, total of $4,300. I feel stupid for not noticing before." "You're not stupid," I wrote back. "You trusted family. That's not stupid, that's normal. The betrayal is on them, not you." "What are you going to do?" "I'm not sure yet, but I'm not backing down." "Good. Someone needs to stand up to this. Your mom has been controlling this family for too long, and Rebecca learned from the best." I sat back from my laptop, processing that last sentence, Rebecca learned from the best. I'd always seen my mother as enabling Rebecca, but maybe it was more than that. Maybe Mom had been the original source of this entitlement, and Rebecca was just following the playbook she'd grown up with. That evening, I attended my first family estrangement support group meeting. It was virtual, which felt safer somehow. 12 people on the Zoom call, their faces arranged in little squares, all of them carrying their own stories of family pain and the difficult choice to prioritize their well-being. The facilitator, a woman named Karen with kind eyes and gray-streaked hair, opened the meeting with a simple question. "What brought you here tonight?" People shared their stories. A man whose parents had financially abused him for years, a woman whose siblings blamed her for their mother's narcissistic behavior, another woman who'd been sexually abused by an uncle and was now being pressured by the family to forgive and forget. When it was my turn, I told my story as concisely as I could. The fraudulent charges, the police report, the family reaction, the boundaries I'd set, and the price I was paying for them. "I keep wondering if I'm being too harsh," I admitted, "if I should have just handled this privately. But then I remember that she stole nearly $15,000 from me while I was sleeping, and I think, no, that deserves consequences." "You're right," said a man named David, who'd shared earlier about his mother's financial manipulation. "Theft is theft. Family doesn't get a pass on that. The fact that your family is more upset with you for reporting it than they are with your sister for doing it tells you everything you need to know about their priorities." Others chimed in with agreement and support. No one suggested I should apologize. No one implied I was overreacting. Instead, they shared their own stories of boundaries and backlash, of choosing themselves and surviving the fallout. For the first time since this all began, I didn't feel crazy. I felt understood. After the meeting ended, several people sent me private messages offering additional support. Karen sent me a reading list about toxic family systems. David invited me to a smaller accountability group that met weekly. I closed my laptop feeling less alone than I had in weeks. That feeling lasted until Thursday morning when I received a certified letter. I signed for it at my building's front desk, my stomach nodding at the return address. Bennett and Associates Law Firm, Newton, Massachusetts. My sister had hired a lawyer. I carried the envelope upstairs with trembling hands and sat at my kitchen table, staring at it for a full minute before opening it. The letter inside was 2 pages of legal jargon that boiled down to this: Rebecca was threatening to sue me for defamation and emotional distress. She claimed I had made false accusations against her, damaged her reputation, and caused her severe mental anguish. She demanded I retract the police report, issue a public apology, and pay her $10,000 for damages. I had to read it twice to believe what I was seeing. My sister, who had stolen from me, was now claiming she was the victim. The letter gave me 10 days to respond before she would file suit. I called Dr. Chen immediately, not caring that it wasn't our scheduled session day. Her receptionist put me through when I explained it was an emergency. She's threatening to sue me, I said, my voice shaking, for reporting her fraud. Take a breath, Dr. Chen said calmly. This is an intimidation tactic, Sophia. It's designed to scare you into backing down. It's working. I know, but think about what she's claiming. That you defamed her by reporting a crime she actually committed. That you caused her emotional distress by setting boundaries after she stole from you. No legitimate court would take this seriously. But I'll have to defend myself, hire my own lawyer, spend money I don't have. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, you need to consult with an attorney who specializes in this area. Many do free consultations. Get professional advice before you panic. She gave me the name of a lawyer she'd worked with before, someone who handled cases involving family conflict. I called as soon as we hung up. The lawyer, a woman named Patricia Morrison, could see me the next day, Friday afternoon, found me in her downtown office, a modern space with glass walls and minimalist furniture. Patricia was in her 50s, impeccably dressed, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. I handed her the letter and all my documentation. She read through everything methodically, occasionally making notes. "This is garbage," she said finally, setting down the letter. "I'm sorry to be blunt, but this is a frivolous threat designed to intimidate you. Your sister has no case." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. You didn't make false statements about her. You reported actual fraud, which is supported by bank records and the police investigation. As for emotional distress, she'd have to prove that your actions were outrageous and intentional, which they weren't. You were protecting yourself from theft." "So I can just ignore this?" "Not exactly. I'd recommend we send a response letter, something that firmly rebuts her claims and makes it clear you won't be intimidated. Sometimes these things escalate before they de-escalate, and I want you protected. How much will this cost me?" She named a number that made my stomach drop. Then she saw my face and softened slightly. "I'll tell you what. Let me draft the response letter. That's one flat fee. If she actually files suit, which I doubt she will, we can discuss next steps then. But my guess is she'll back down once she realizes you have competent legal representation." I agreed, even though the fee would wipe out a significant chunk of my savings. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was spending money to defend myself against someone who'd tried to steal money from me. Patricia said she'd have the response letter ready by Monday. We'd send it certified mail, same as Rebecca had done, creating a paper trail. As I left her office, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Sophia, this is Aunt Sarah. I just heard Rebecca hired a lawyer to come after you. I want you to know I'm willing to testify about what she did to me if it comes to that. You're not alone in this. She's been getting away with this behavior for too long." I felt tears well up in my eyes as I stood on the busy Portland street. Not alone. I wasn't alone. I texted back, "Thank you, that means everything." Her response was immediate. "Your mom called me last night and told me I had to choose sides. I told her I chose the truth. We're not speaking now, but I'm okay with that. Some things are more important than peace." I leaned against the building, letting that sink in. Aunt Sarah, who'd always been the family peacekeeper, had chosen me over my mother, had chosen truth over family unity. The cost of my boundaries was high, but I was learning that I wasn't the only one willing to pay it. The next week brought an eerie calm. No more letters, no more unexpected visitors, no contact from any family members. I knew it wasn't over. This felt like the eye of the storm. But I used the quiet to reinforce my boundaries and strengthen my support system. I attended another support group meeting. I had my second session with Dr. Chen. I sent updates to Patricia Morrison about any attempts at contact. I wrote in my journal every day, processing the complicated grief that came with this kind of family rupture. Because it was grief. Even though I was angry, even though I knew I was doing the right thing, I was mourning the family I'd thought I had. The sister I'd believed would never betray me this way. The mother I'd hoped would choose fairness over favoritism. I was mourning the illusion while trying to accept the reality. Wednesday evening, a week after receiving the legal threat, I logged into the support group meeting and found a message from Karen, the facilitator. Sophia, before we start tonight's session, I wanted to let you know that someone claiming to be your mother tried to join the meeting. We denied her access based on our privacy policies, but I thought you should know she's looking for ways to insert herself into your support systems. You might want to be careful about what information you share publicly. My blood ran cold. My mother had tried to infiltrate my support group. She was actively looking for ways to maintain surveillance and control, even after I'd blocked all direct contact. This wasn't love. This wasn't concern. This was something else entirely. Something toxic. During the meeting, I shared what had happened. The group's response was immediate and fierce. Change all your security questions to nonsense answers, David suggested. Don't use your mother's maiden name or your first pet's name or anything they could guess. Check your location services, another member added. Make sure you're not sharing your location with any family members through Find My Phone or similar apps. Document everything, Karen said. Every attempt at contact, every boundary violation. You may need this pattern established if things escalate further. I took notes like my life depended on it, because maybe it did. After the meeting, I spent 2 hours going through every device and account I owned. I found things that made my blood run cold. My mother had my Apple ID password, probably from years ago when she'd helped me set up my first iPhone. I'd never changed it. I changed it immediately, along with every security question and recovery option. I found location sharing enabled with Mom on my iPhone. I disabled it. I found a shared photo album I'd forgotten about. I removed her access. Layer by layer, I was severing the digital connections that allowed my family to monitor and access my life. It felt paranoid. It felt necessary. Both things were true. Thursday morning, I received an email from Patricia Morrison. Sophia, I sent the response letter to your sister's attorney. It should arrive tomorrow. I want to prepare you for the possibility that things may escalate in the short term before they improve. Manipulative people don't respond well to being told no. Stay vigilant. I forwarded the email to Dr. Chen and to Aunt Sarah, building my paper trail and keeping my allies informed. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. My younger cousin, Emma, Rebecca's daughter who was 12 years old, sent me a message on Instagram. Aunt Sophia, I don't understand why everyone is so mad at you. Mom says you're being mean and trying to hurt our family. But I heard her and Grandma talking on the phone, and Mom said she used your credit card without asking because Grandma told her it would be fine. That doesn't seem okay. I'm confused and I miss you. Are you okay? I stared at that message for a long time, my heart breaking for this kid caught in the middle of adult dysfunction. I couldn't respond directly. Emma was a minor, and anything I said could be twisted and used against me. But I also couldn't leave her thinking I'd abandoned her. I called Patricia Morrison for guidance. Screenshot the message, she said immediately, but don't respond. If you must say anything, keep it general and don't discuss the case. Something like, I love you and I miss you too. I hope you're doing well. Nothing more. I followed her advice, saving the screenshot and sending the briefest possible response. But Emma's message told me something important. Cracks were forming in the family narrative. Rebecca's own daughter was questioning the story being told. Truth has a way of emerging, even through carefully constructed lies. Friday, the response letter arrived at Rebecca's attorney's office. I knew because Patricia forwarded me the delivery confirmation. Now we wait, she said. Most likely they'll realize pursuing this is pointless and back off. Worst case, they file anyway, and we destroy their case in court. Either way, you're protected. I spent the weekend in a state of anxious anticipation, waiting for the next attack. It came Monday morning, but not in the form I expected. An email arrived from my cousin Jennifer, Rebecca's ally in most family conflicts. Sophia, I don't know what you think you're accomplishing, but you're destroying our family. Grandma had to start taking anxiety medication because of the stress you're causing. Rebecca can barely function. Uncle Marcus is talking about a divorce because the financial stress is too much. And you're sitting there in your perfect little life, alone in your apartment, probably feeling so righteous and justified. I hope you're happy. I hope all your precious boundaries keep you warm at night when you have no one left, because that's where you're headed. You're going to end up old and alone and full of regret. And we'll all be together, without you, finally at peace. Don't bother responding. I've said what I needed to say. I read it once, felt the familiar stab of guilt and pain, and then I did something different. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so transparent. The manipulation was right there on the surface. The emotional blackmail, the catastrophizing, the dire predictions of my lonely future. The implication that family peace required my silence about being victimized. I'd heard it all before. From Jake. You're overreacting. You're causing problems. You're going to end up alone. It was the same script, just delivered by different actors. I forwarded the email to Patricia and Dr. Chen with a note. Another one for the collection. Then I blocked Jennifer's email address and went back to work. I was done letting other people's words determine my worth. This is Revenge Stories with Michelle, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you feel my words, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your voice matters here, your story matters too. The weeks that followed brought a strange new rhythm to my life. Work continued, my novel progressed. I attended my support group meetings. I checked in with Dr. Chen and Patricia Morrison. I documented every attempt at contact from my family, and slowly, gradually, the attempts decreased. My mother stopped trying to visit. Rebecca's lawyer never filed the threatened lawsuit. The family group chat continued without me, and I felt nothing about it. Christmas came and went. I spent it with Aunt Sarah and a few of her friends, people who'd also been estranged from toxic family members. We cooked together, exchanged small gifts, and shared stories about building chosen families. It wasn't the Christmas I'd grown up with. It was better. In January, I received a formal letter from the district attorney's office. Rebecca had been charged with identity theft and credit card fraud. She'd accepted a plea deal. Restitution to me and to Aunt Sarah, 2 years of probation, and mandatory financial counseling. No jail time, but a criminal record consequences. Real ones. Patricia called to explain the next steps. The restitution means she'll have to pay back what she stole. It'll probably take years given her financial situation, but you'll see that money eventually. I don't even care about the money anymore, I admitted. I just want her to stop. This should do it. The probation terms include a no-contact order. She's legally barred from contacting you or accessing your accounts. Violation means jail time. I hung up feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Safe. February brought an unexpected development. My mother sent a letter, not an email or a text, but an actual handwritten letter delivered by mail. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity won. "Sophia," it began, "I'm writing because I've had time to think, and I need to say some things. What Rebecca did was wrong. I can see that now. I spent so many years making excuses for her, protecting her from consequences. And I failed both of you in the process. I failed her by teaching her that family would always bail her out. And I failed you by treating your success and stability as a resource for others. Rather than something to be respected, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't expect you to trust me again. But I want you to know that I'm seeing a therapist, and I'm trying to understand how I contributed to this situation. I hope someday you'll be willing to have a conversation. Not to fix things or go back to how they were, but to maybe build something new. If and when you're ready. With love, Mom." I read it 3 times, looking for the manipulation, the guilt trip, the expectation. I found something different. Accountability. Not perfect, not complete, but a beginning. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I brought the letter to my next therapy session. "What do you think?" Dr. Chen asked after reading it. "I think part of me wants to believe her, wants to think change is possible. Change is always possible, but it's also slow and requires consistent action, not just words. What would you need to see from her before considering reconnection?" I thought about that for a long time. Consistent respect for my boundaries, no pressure, no timelines, an understanding that if we rebuild anything, it'll be on my terms. That's reasonable. So maybe you sit with this letter for a while. Don't respond yet. See if she can respect your silence without pushing. That would be evidence of change. I followed her advice. I didn't respond to my mother's letter. And she didn't push. No follow-up letters, no emails, no calls, just space. The space I needed. March arrived with warmer weather and a sense of possibility. My novel was nearly finished. My client roster was full. My emergency fund had been rebuilt. I attended my support group meetings and found myself offering advice to newer members, sharing what I'd learned about boundary setting and standing firm. Aunt Sarah became a regular lunch companion. We'd meet every other week at a cafe halfway between Portland and her town, and we'd talk about family dynamics, healing, and building lives outside of toxic systems. "I've been thinking," she said over coffee one afternoon. "Your mother reaching out to you, going to therapy, that's good. But I wonder if it would have happened without consequences forcing the issue." "Probably not," I admitted. "That's what I'm learning. Peace without accountability isn't peace. It's just suppression. All those years we kept the peace by not calling out bad behavior. We weren't actually creating harmony. We were just enabling dysfunction." "So what do you do now? With your relationship with Mom?" "I'm open to reconnection, but on my terms. Same as you, I told her I need to see sustained change, not just apologies. And if she can do that, maybe we can rebuild something. But if she can't, I'm okay with that too. I've built a good life without her approval." I thought about that conversation for days afterward. Peace without accountability isn't peace. That became my mantra. That became the standard I held myself and everyone else to. In April, 6 months after the fraudulent charges first appeared, I did something I hadn't done since this all began. I attended a family event, my cousin Emma's birthday party. She'd sent me a personal invitation, carefully worded to let me know that her mother wouldn't be there. Rebecca had moved out, staying with her parents while the divorce with Marcus proceeded. I RSVP'd yes. The party was at a local park, sunny and casual. Emma ran to me when I arrived, throwing her arms around me in a hug that made my eyes sting with tears. "I missed you, Aunt Sophia." "I missed you too, sweetheart." Marcus was there, looking tired but relieved. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. "Emma's been asking about you constantly. How are you doing?" "Better." The divorce is messy but necessary. I had no idea the extent of Rebecca's financial issues until everything came out. She'd been hiding debt for years, using my income to float her spending. I'm having to rebuild my credit and my practice's reputation. I'm sorry you're going through this. Don't be. You did me a favor by standing up to her. You showed me it was possible to say no. I wish I'd learned that lesson years ago. Other family members were there too. Some avoided me. Some greeted me warmly. Aunt Sarah held court by the cake table, and I caught her eye across the park. She winked. My mother was there. We saw each other across the playground equipment, and she gave me a small, sad smile. I nodded back. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation. Just acknowledgement that we both existed in this space. Small steps. That was all either of us could manage right now. As I drove home that evening, I thought about how far I'd come. From that morning in December when I discovered the fraudulent charges to now, rebuilding relationships on my own terms. The cost had been high. I'd lost the family structure I'd grown up with. I'd spent money on lawyers and therapy. I'd endured months of guilt and doubt and fear. But I'd gained something more valuable: myself. I'd learned that boundaries weren't walls designed to keep people out. They were foundations designed to keep me standing. I'd learned that real love respects limits. Toxic love violates them. I'd learned that family isn't just blood. It's choice and respect and mutual care. And I'd learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is disappoint the people who raised you in order to protect the person you've become. Now, on a warm spring evening in Portland, I pulled into my apartment complex and parked in my designated spot. I gathered my things and walked to my door, keys in hand. My apartment was exactly as I'd left it: safe, secure, mine. I made myself dinner, poured a glass of wine, and settled onto my couch with my laptop. My novel waited, the final chapters calling to me. I opened the document and began to write. The story I'd been telling myself, and the story I was writing on the page, were finally aligned. Stories of women who'd been hurt but found their strength. Women who'd been manipulated but learned to trust themselves. Women who'd chosen healing over harmony and discovered that sometimes the only way to save yourself is to walk away from the people trying to pull you under. My phone buzzed with a text from David, my friend from the support group. "How'd the birthday party go?" "Better than expected. Small steps forward." "That's all we can ask for, proud of you, Sophia." I smiled and set my phone aside. Proud of you. I was learning to be proud of myself, too. Not for being perfect, not for never struggling, but for showing up, for standing firm, for choosing myself even when it cost me everything I thought I needed. My fingers moved across the keyboard, words flowing faster now. The novel's protagonist faced her final test, returning to the family that had hurt her, not to seek approval, but to demonstrate that she no longer needed it. I wrote late into the night, the story pouring out of me like confession and catharsis combined. Around midnight, I saved the document and closed my laptop. Tomorrow I'd edit. Tomorrow I'd revise. But tonight, the story was told. I walked to my bedroom, my small, safe sanctuary, and caught my reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back at me was different from the one who'd woken up to fraudulent charges 6 months ago. Stronger, clearer, more certain of who she was and what she deserved. I thought about that morning in December, about the fear and violation I'd felt, about how small and powerless I'd felt in that moment. And I thought about the power I'd reclaimed since then, not through revenge or retaliation, but through something quieter and more profound: boundary setting and self-respect. I climbed into bed, my phone on my nightstand showing no notifications. No family drama, no crisis, just peace. The kind of peace that comes not from avoiding conflict, but from surviving it with your integrity intact. I turned off the light and closed my eyes, thinking about tomorrow and the day after that and all the days stretching ahead. Days I got to design, days that belonged to me. I'd lost a family, but I'd found myself. And in the end, That was the only trade worth making. This is Revenge Stories, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you feel my words, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Help us build this community so we can bring more interesting and exciting stories for you from around the world. Your help is much appreciated. Your voice matters here. Your story matters too. The last thing I thought before sleep claimed me was this: financial boundaries are emotional boundaries. Real love cannot exist without respect. And sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to participate in your own diminishment. Some lessons cost everything to learn, but they're worth every penny.